I should have been at home, packing for our long-awaited Caribbean cruise, excited about spending an entire week with Jessica, away from work, responsibilities, and stress. Instead, I was standing in the middle of our bedroom, gripping my phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. Jessica had just sent me a message. "I'm so sorry, baby. I feel awful, but I can't make the cruise. I've come down with something nasty. Just go and enjoy for both of us, okay? While you're here, leave a comment and let me know where you're watching from. I'd love to know." I reread the text, my pulse hammering against my temples. Something about it felt off. Jessica wasn't the type to quietly accept being sick. When she caught so much as a cold, she acted like she was on her deathbed, demanding soup, medicine, and round-the-clock attention. But now, she was letting me go on a vacation she had been excited about for months without putting up a fight? That didn't make sense. I hesitated for a moment before swiping to our shared location app, one we had installed years ago when we used to plan surprise dates for each other. Jessica often forgot to turn hers off, which had never been an issue before. But now, as I watched the small blinking dot on my screen, my stomach dropped. I stood frozen, staring at the notification. The cruise was departing from Port Everglades. There was no reason for her to be there. No reason except the one clawing its way into my brain. My breath came out sharp and uneven as I tapped on the icon, zooming in. The dot was moving, not toward a parking lot, not toward an exit, but deeper into the terminal. She was boarding the ship. I felt a sick twist in my gut. She lied to me. I had to force myself to stay calm, but my body betrayed me. My hands trembled, my heart pounded, and a rush of heat crawled up my neck. Jessica wasn't sick at home. She was on the ship we were supposed to take together. And if she didn't want me to be there, it meant she wasn't alone. I needed proof. Jessica had never been the best at covering her tracks. I pulled up our phone bill and scrolled through the call logs. One name stood out like a flashing neon sign. Brad Carter. Brad, the coworker she always insisted was just a friend. The same Brad who conveniently took the same vacation time as she did. The same Brad who had texted her more often than I had in the past few weeks. I checked her texts, and though she had deleted most of them, she had forgotten about her recent call history. There was an outgoing call to Brad this morning, less than an hour before she texted me. I felt my jaw clench so tightly it ached. So that was it. My wife had planned a secret getaway with her lover, lying straight to my face while expecting me to just stay home like an idiot. I should have been furious, should have thrown something, screamed, demanded answers. But instead, a strange kind of calm settled over me. A cold, sharp clarity. I could have confronted her. I could have called her, accused her, made a scene. But that would be too easy, too clean. No, I wanted her to feel what it was like to be blindsided, to be humiliated. Jessica had taken our dream vacation and turned it into her dirty little secret. I was about to make it her worst nightmare. Without hesitating, I pulled up the Royal Solace website and booked myself a last-minute ticket. This wasn't going to be a private argument behind closed doors. Jessica was about to be exposed for exactly who she was in front of an entire ship full of strangers. Booking the last-minute ticket wasn't as hard as I expected. A suite was still available, and I paid extra for priority boarding. I wanted to be on that ship before Jessica had a chance to realize something was off. If she and Brad thought they were safe, that they had pulled this off without a hitch, I wanted to keep it that way, right up until the moment I tore their fantasy apart. I packed a small bag, just enough to keep up appearances, and drove straight to the port. The closer I got, the more the weight of betrayal settled in my chest. I kept running over the details in my head, every little sign I had ignored, every excuse Jessica had given me. How many times had she claimed to be working late when she was really with him? How many times had she smiled at me, kissed me, told me she loved me, all while planning this? By the time I reached the cruise terminal, my hands had stopped shaking. The anger, the heartbreak, it was still there, but now it was controlled, sharpened into something useful. I parked, grabbed my bag, and checked in. The staff was cheerful, the atmosphere buzzing with excitement. But to me, this wasn't a vacation. This was war. As I stepped onto the Royal Solace, I was hit with a mix of emotions. This was supposed to be our trip, the one I had planned for months, picturing Jessica and me standing together on the deck, watching the ocean stretch out endlessly before us. Now all I could see was the truth. I imagined her here, walking hand in hand with Brad, giggling, sneaking off to their luxury suite, believing they had fooled me. I wasn't sure what I'd find first, her, him, or both together, but I had no intention of waiting. I took a deep breath and pulled out my phone. Jessica's location was still active. I followed the little blinking dot, moving deeper into the ship, past laughing couples, families with kids, retirees sipping champagne. They all looked so carefree, so innocent. None of them had any idea that, in a matter of days, they'd witness something unforgettable. Jessica's location stopped on deck 9. My pulse quickened. That was where the high-end suites were, the ones with private balconies and priority room service. Of course, she hadn't just gone on this trip. She had made sure it was perfect for them. I checked the ship's map and took the elevator up. The hallways were lined with elegant doors, gold-plated numbers glinting under the warm lights. My heart pounded as I walked, pretending to be just another guest. But inside, I was hunting. Then I saw it. Suite 927. Jessica's location, that was right inside. I stood there for a moment, staring at the door. I could knock. I could kick it open. I could wait for them to come out. But no, that wasn't the plan. I needed to be smarter. I needed to let them feel safe. I turned away, forcing myself to walk past the room, my mind racing. I could already picture the scene inside. Jessica and Brad lounging on the bed, sipping champagne, laughing about the idiot husband she had so easily deceived. My fists clenched at the thought, but I reminded myself, patience. Instead of confronting them now, I needed to prepare. I headed toward the main deck, letting the fresh sea breeze cool my burning thoughts. There was an information desk nearby, where a cheerful attendant greeted me. "Good afternoon, sir. How can I help you today?" I smiled, keeping my voice light. I was wondering, does this ship have a PA system for announcements? She nodded. Of course. We use it for daily schedules, special events, and emergencies. The captain and crew can make ship-wide announcements whenever needed. Perfect. That's great. And out of curiosity, are any guest messages ever broadcasted? She laughed. Not usually, unless it's something pre-approved, like a marriage proposal or a birthday surprise. I leaned on the counter. So, if someone wanted to make a special announcement, who would they talk to? She tilted her head, clearly amused. You'd have to speak to the event coordinator. They handle all guest requests. Thanks. I might just do that. I gave her a casual smile and walked away. The plan was forming in my mind now, each piece falling into place. Jessica wanted an unforgettable vacation. I was about to give her one. But first I needed to see them together with my own eyes. I needed to see them together. No more theories, no more assumptions. I needed proof. My hands clenched at my sides as I made my way back to Deck 9. The hallway leading to Suite 927 stretched in front of me, long and empty, save for the distant hum of the ship's engines. I stopped a few doors away, my heart hammering in my chest, forcing myself to breathe slowly. If I went in now, I'd blow everything. Think, Nathan. Be smart. I pulled out my phone and refreshed the tracking app. Jessica's location hadn't changed. Neither had Brad's. They were still inside. Together. What were they doing? A part of me didn't want to know, but another part, the one that had spent years trusting a woman who had been lying straight to my face, wanted every detail. My stomach churned at the thought, but I pushed it down. A room service cart rolled past me, and an idea clicked into place. I turned on my heel and walked swiftly back to the lobby. The room service desk was tucked near the main dining area, a young crew member standing behind the counter, checking orders on a tablet. I approached casually, keeping my expression neutral. "Hey man," I said, leaning against the counter. "I think my wife ordered champagne to our suite, but I forgot the room number. Would you mind checking for me?" Jessica Brooks. The attendant smiled politely, tapping at the screen. "Of course, sir. Just a moment." I forced myself to stay relaxed as he scrolled through the reservations. My pulse pounded in my ears. "Ah, here we go," he said. "Jessica Brooks, Suite 927. She ordered a bottle of Dom Perignon about an hour ago. Should already be delivered. Champagne. She and Brad were celebrating. I could almost hear their laughter, the clinking of glasses, the soft murmur of betrayal behind that locked door. My grip on the counter tightened, but I forced a smile. Perfect. Thanks, man. Just wanted to make sure it got there. I walked away before he could ask any questions, my mind racing. I had the confirmation I needed. They were inside drinking, relaxing, completely unaware that I was watching, planning. I circled back to Deck 9, pausing near a small alcove where the housekeeping staff kept their supplies. A cleaner had left a car parked outside one of the rooms. I glanced around, making sure no one was watching, then quickly swiped a master key card off the top. My heart pounded as I slipped it into my pocket and walked away. Now I had everything I needed. Access, timing, a plan. I took my time, making sure the hallway was still clear before approaching Suite 927. Pressing my ear against the door, I could hear muffled voices. Jessica's laugh, light, happy, completely unburdened. Then Brad's voice, low and smooth. I couldn't make out the words, but I didn't need to. The sound alone was enough to ignite something inside me. I exhaled slowly. Patience. I wasn't here to barge in and make a scene like some scorned fool. I was here to destroy her. Pulling out my phone, I activated the voice recorder and slipped it into my pocket. Then, with careful precision, I slid the master key card through the lock. The light turned green. The handle clicked. I pushed the door open an inch, just enough to see inside without being noticed. Jessica was curled up on the couch, wrapped in a silk robe, holding a champagne flute. Brad sat beside her, his arm draped lazily across the back of the couch, his shirt unbuttoned at the top, looking far too comfortable in my place. The balcony doors were open, the ocean breeze drifting through sheer curtains. The entire suite was dimly lit, an expensive bottle of champagne chilling in an ice bucket nearby. Jessica giggled. I still can't believe we pulled this off. Brad smirked, leaning in closer. Told you it'd be easy. He never suspected a thing? Jessica shook her head, sipping her drink. Nope. I told him I was sick, and he actually bought it. Probably sitting at home feeling sorry for me. Brad chuckled. Poor guy. Poor guy. I clenched my jaw, so hard it hurt. The sheer audacity of it. The ease with which she dismissed me. The way she laughed at my supposed ignorance. If I had ever doubted going through with my plan, that doubt was gone now. She deserved every ounce of what was coming. I pulled back, carefully shutting the door without a sound. I had heard enough. I walked back toward the main deck, my footsteps steady, my mind clear. It was time. The pieces were falling into place, and when I was finished, Jessica wouldn't just regret this affair, she would never forget it. I left Deck 9 with my mind razor-sharp and my plan fully formed. Jessica and Brad were lounging in their private suite, sipping champagne, wrapped in stolen luxury, while I walked the ship unnoticed, preparing the moment that would shatter their perfect little fantasy. She thought I was home, clueless. That was her first mistake. Her second? Thinking I would sit back and accept betrayal like some pathetic fool. I made my way to the ship's main office, where guest services handled everything from lost luggage to special requests. The woman behind the desk, a blonde in a crisp white uniform, greeted me with a professional smile. Good evening, sir. How can I assist you? I smiled back, keeping my voice light and composed. I was wondering, is there any way for passengers to make a special announcement over the PA system? A surprise message, maybe? She tilted her head, intrigued. We do offer personalized announcements for birthdays, proposals, and special occasions. What did you have in mind? I leaned in slightly. My wife is on board, but she thinks I couldn't make the trip. I wanted to surprise her in a way she'd never forget. The woman beamed. That sounds so romantic. We love helping with special moments like this. We usually do announcements before dinner service, when most passengers are in their rooms or on deck. Would you like to record something, or would you prefer a live announcement? I pretended to think about it. Live. Definitely live. She deserves to hear it straight from me. She nodded, pulling out a clipboard. We can schedule it for tomorrow evening, right before the captain's formal address, around 7:30. That way, the whole ship will hear it. Perfect. Right when the dining hall would be full. Right when Jessica would least expect it. Right when she would have no way to escape. That's great, I said, signing the request form. I want to make sure I have access to the microphone in the main lounge so she can hear it wherever she is. Absolutely, she assured me. Just come to the main deck's communication center at 7:15, and we'll set you up. I thanked her, hiding the satisfaction curling in my chest. One more step completed. Jessica had planned this trip as a paradise for two. By tomorrow night, it would become her personal hell. With my announcement scheduled, I needed to make sure she didn't suspect a thing before the reveal. So, I spent the rest of the evening blending in, walking the decks, visiting the bars, even chatting with other guests. I was just another happy vacationer, not a man preparing to burn his marriage to the ground. The next morning, I checked the tracking app as soon as I woke up. Jessica and Brad were still in their suite. The ship had docked at its first stop, Grand Cayman. Passengers were disembarking for excursions, exploring beaches, shopping, taking in the sights. I wondered if they would step off the ship together, hand in hand, believing they were untouchable. I didn't have to wait long for an answer. At noon, I spotted them. Jessica in a sun hat and a flowing dress, her arm looped through Brad's as they strolled toward the gangway. She looked radiant, carefree, like a woman who had no husband, no responsibilities, no guilt. The sight of them together, laughing, whispering, made my blood boil, but I forced myself to stay still, to observe. As they passed, I caught just a snippet of their conversation. Brad smirked. "Think he's checked on you?" Jessica rolled her eyes. "Doubt it. He's probably too busy feeling sorry for himself to even call." They both laughed. That was it. Any lingering hesitation I had was gone. I let them enjoy their little fantasy for the rest of the day. Let them believe they were invincible. Meanwhile, I fine-tuned every detail of my revenge. By the time the ship set sail again, I was ready. At exactly 7:15 p.m., I arrived at the communications center. The crew member handling the PA system smiled as he led me to the microphone, unaware that this was about to be the most talked-about announcement in the ship's history. "Are you nervous?" he asked. I smiled, my hand steady as I adjusted the mic. "Not at all. My wife is in for the surprise of a lifetime." And with that, the ship's PA system crackled to life. And I gripped the microphone, my voice calm, measured, controlled. The dining hall was full, passengers gathered for the evening's formal dinner, waiters gliding between tables, the hum of conversation filling the air. I could picture Jessica and Brad, sipping wine, wrapped in the illusion of their secret escape. They had no idea their world was seconds away from shattering. "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen." I began, my voice smooth, almost casual. "This is Nathan Brooks, and I have a very special announcement to make tonight. You see, I came on this cruise expecting romance, expecting to spend time with the love of my life. But unfortunately, my wife, Jessica Brooks, told me she was sick, told me she was staying home. Imagine my surprise when I found out she's actually here, enjoying this cruise with someone else." The dining hall fell silent. A ripple of confusion spread through the room as people turned to whisper, glancing around, searching for Jessica. I could almost hear the collective intake of breath, the widening of eyes, the thrill of scandal igniting among the crowd. She's not alone, of course. She's here with Brad Carter, her co-worker, her secret lover. They've been enjoying their suite, drinking champagne, laughing at the husband she left behind. But here's the thing, Jessica, my voice sharpened, turning colder, deadlier. "I'm not home. I'm on this ship. And now, everyone knows what you've done." Gasps erupted, silverware clattered against plates. Murmurs turned into outright conversations. My words spread through the ship like wildfire. I could imagine Jessica frozen in place, eyes wide with horror, her carefully built life crumbling around her. I wasn't done. "Jessica, Brad, if you're listening, don't bother running. People are already looking at you. They're whispering. They're taking pictures. By the time you stand up, half the ship will have their phones out, recording the moment you try to slink away. Because that's what you are now, a spectacle, a joke." A lesson in what happens when you betray someone who trusted you. I let the silence stretch, knowing that every second was a dagger twisting in Jessica's gut. Oh, and one last thing, I added, my voice turning almost amused. Jessica, when the ship docks tomorrow, don't bother looking for your passport. Don't bother looking for your money. Because I have them. Enjoy being stranded in a foreign country with nothing but Brad by your side. Let's see how much fun your little adventure is now. I released the button, cutting the broadcast. For a moment, there was nothing but silence. And then chaos. Passengers whispered excitedly. Heads turned, chairs scraped against the floor. Phones lit up as people rushed to search for her, the woman from the announcement. I stepped away from the mic, breathing deeply, a slow, satisfying exhale. It was done. I walked toward the main dining hall, blending into the crowd just as the doors burst open. Jessica stumbled inside, still in her evening dress, but her face was pale, stricken, exposed. She clutched Brad's arm, her movements frantic as she scanned the room, looking for me, for a way out, for anything that could undo what had just happened. The ship's passengers noticed her immediately. A woman at a nearby table gasped, whispering to her husband. A group of younger guests pulled out their phones, recording. Someone let out a low whistle. Laughter rippled through the crowd, and a voice muttered, "Damn, that's her?" Jessica's breathing was shallow, her chest rising and falling in panic. "Nathan," she gasped, her eyes locking onto mine. I didn't smile. I didn't react. I just stood there, letting her feel it. She let go of Brad, rushing toward me. "Nathan, please, I can explain." I stepped back, disgusted, detached. "Done. Explain?" My voice was low, controlled, meant for her ears alone. "Jessica, I gave you everything, and you threw it away for him, for some pathetic, stolen getaway." I shook my head. "You don't get to explain. You don't get to beg. You get exactly what you deserve." Tears welled in her eyes. "Nathan, don't do this. Don't leave me here." Brad, looking humiliated and cornered, finally spoke. "Look, man, I get that you're pissed, but don't." I turned to him, my voice sharp as a blade. "You don't speak to me. You don't get to talk. You gutless coward." Brad shut his mouth instantly, looking away. I turned back to Jessica. "By the time you get off this ship, I'll be long gone. I've canceled your credit cards. Your belongings? Already packed and sent back home, except for your passport, which will conveniently be missing when you try to leave Jamaica tomorrow. I hope Brad's got enough cash to keep you comfortable, because you won't be coming back anytime soon." Her lip trembled. "You wouldn't." I leaned in just slightly. "Watch me." I turned, leaving her standing in the middle of the dining hall, surrounded by staring, whispering, judging eyes. The weight of humiliation. The reality of loss. I didn't stop walking. Didn't look back. This was her mess now. I didn't look back. Not when Jessica called my name again. Not when the murmurs of the crowd turned into outright laughter. Not when Brad, now caught in a mess of his own making, cursed under his breath and tried to pull her away from the gawking eyes and recording phones. I walked straight past the tables of stunned guests, through the grand dining hall, past the wide glass windows reflecting the dark stretch of the ocean. The night was calm, the waves steady beneath the ship, but inside, Jessica's world was in chaos. The door to the deck slid open with a hiss, the fresh ocean breeze hitting my face as I stepped outside. The sound of the dining hall behind me faded as the sea swallowed everything. I gripped the railing, staring at the endless black water below. It was done. The reveal, the humiliation, the moment Jessica realized she had lost. My phone buzzed. "Jessica, Nathan, please. I need to talk to you." "Jessica, you don't have to do this. Just meet me in our room. Please." "Jessica, Nathan, I love you. Don't let this be how we end." I exhaled slowly, my fingers tightening around my phone before shoving it into my pocket. She still didn't get it. This wasn't a fight that could be talked through, wasn't an argument where she could cry her way out of consequences. She had already chosen her side when she booked this cruise with him. Now, she was just suffering the fallout. The deck door opened behind me. I already knew who it was before she spoke. "Nathan." I didn't turn, The ocean stretched endlessly before me, vast and untouchable. A silence passed between us, heavy, suffocating. When I finally spoke, my voice was cold. "You have 2 minutes." Jessica's breath hitched, like she hadn't expected me to be this distant, this uncaring. But what had she expected? That I'd yell? That I'd cry? That I'd break down and tell her I still wanted her, despite everything? "Nathan, I messed up," she started, her voice shaking. "I don't know what I was thinking. It was just a stupid mistake." I laughed. A low, bitter sound. "A mistake? Jessica, you planned this for weeks. The secret calls, the deleted messages, the fake excuse about being sick. You weren't thinking, because you didn't think you'd get caught." She stepped closer. I know, but I swear." I turned then, finally meeting her eyes. Wide, desperate, full of tears. A look of panic only people drowning in their own failures wore. She wanted to believe she still had control, that she could fix this, that there was still something left between us. "Jessica," I said quietly, "how long?" Her lips parted. "What?" I stepped toward her, my voice calm, steady. "How long have you been lying to me? Was this the first time? Or just the first time I caught you?" She swallowed hard, glancing away. "Nathan, how long?" She hesitated, a second too long. And that was my answer. I nodded, the final piece of my shattered marriage settling into place. "That's what I thought." Jessica reached for my arm. "Nathan, please, I don't want to lose you." I pulled away before she could touch me. "You already did." She let out a shaky breath, her eyes pleading. "You don't mean that." I exhaled slowly, looking at her one last time. "Tomorrow, when this ship docks in Jamaica, I'm leaving. You won't find your passport. You won't have access to your credit cards. You'll be stranded with nothing but Brad to keep you company. Let's see how long he sticks around when he realizes you've lost everything." Panic flickered in her eyes. "Nathan, you can't do that." "You wouldn't." I smirked. "You keep saying that, but you don't seem to know me at all." Jessica took a step back, her breath coming faster. I saw it then, the realization. The dawning horror that there were no second chances this time. No easy way out. No forgiving husband waiting at home. "Nathan, please," she begged, her voice breaking. "You don't have to do this. We can fix this." I tilted my head, considering her words. "You want to fix this?" "Phoenix." I pulled out my phone and opened the contacts list. "Call your parents. Tell them what you did. Tell them exactly why you're about to be left stranded in a foreign country." Her face paled. I can't." I arched a brow. "Then I guess you don't really want to fix it, do you?" She stood there, silent, broken, tears streaking down her face. I let the silence stretch between us before I turned and walked away, leaving Jessica alone on the deck, lost in the ruin she had created. I didn't sleep that night, not because of regret. There was none, but because of the electric anticipation coursing through me. Tomorrow morning, Jessica's perfect world would collapse completely. I had gone through every detail, ensured there was no way for her to slip out of this unscathed. The ship would dock in Jamaica at 10 a.m., and by 10:05, I'd be stepping on a solid ground, leaving her behind to fend for herself. I spent the early hours on my balcony, watching the dark waves roll endlessly beneath the moonlight. Somewhere on this ship, Jessica was panicking, scrambling for a way out. She'd be checking her bags, searching for her passport, realizing it was gone. She'd be refreshing her banking apps, discovering her cards had been canceled. She'd be waking up Brad, demanding solutions, pleading for help. And he, spineless, selfish, the same man who had eagerly crept into my wife's bed, would be calculating. Would he stay? Would he try to help her? Or would he cut his losses, leaving her stranded, just like she had left me behind? I hoped for the latter. By the time the sun rose, the ship was already approaching the Jamaican port. The atmosphere on board had shifted. Passengers were awake, excited, preparing for a day of excursions and sightseeing. For them, this was just another beautiful stop. For Jessica, it was the beginning of her worst nightmare. I dressed carefully, choosing a crisp button-up shirt and a pair of sunglasses. I wanted to look good, collected, untouched by the storm Jessica was drowning in. By the time I stepped out of my room, The hallways were buzzing with movement. Families gathering their kids, couples chatting about their plans, laughter echoing through the corridors. And then Jessica. She stood at the far end of the hall, her eyes locking onto mine the moment I stepped out. She looked wrecked. Her hair was unbrushed, her dress wrinkled from a night of tossing and turning, her expression one of sheer desperation. And beside her, Brad, standing awkwardly, arms crossed, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Jessica took a shaky breath and rushed toward me. "Nathan, please. We need to talk." I didn't break stride. I walked past her without stopping. She grabbed my arm, her fingers digging in, her voice cracking. "Nathan, don't do this. I don't have my passport. I don't have my money. I can't be stuck here." I turned to her slowly, lowering my sunglasses. My voice was calm, cold. "Not my problem, Jessica." Her breath hitched. "Please," she whispered. "I know I messed up, but you don't have to do this to me. You loved me once. That has to mean something." I stared at her for a long moment. "You're right. I did love you once. But now, I feel nothing." Tears welled in her eyes, but before she could speak, Brad finally decided to open his mouth. "Look, man," he muttered, rubbing the back of his neck. "This is getting out of hand. You made your point, okay? You humiliated her in front of the whole ship. You took her passport, fine. But leaving her stranded in another country? That's too much." I let out a sharp laugh, shaking my head. "Too much? You mean like screwing another man's wife? Like sneaking around behind my back, laughing at me while I was planning a future with her?" I took a step closer, lowering my voice. "Brad, I don't care what happens to her. I don't care what happens to you. You wanted her so badly? She's yours now. Figure it out." Brad's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. He wasn't a fighter, just a snake who had finally realized that sleeping with another man's wife came with consequences. Jessica clutched my arm tighter. "Nathan, I will do anything to fix this. I swear. Just please don't leave me like this." I pried her fingers off me, one by one. "You left me first." She let out a broken sob as I walked away. By the time I reached the lower deck, the line to disembark had already started forming. The Jamaican port stretched out before us, bright and lively, passengers eagerly stepping off the ship with smiles and excitement. I walked down the ramp, feeling the solid ground beneath my feet, the warmth of the sun on my face. And then, just as I had hoped, Jessica's voice, screaming my name. I turned, just in time to see her pushing past security, trying to run after me. "Nathan," she cried, her voice raw, desperate. "Please, don't leave me here." A crew member grabbed her arm, stopping her. "Ma'am, you need your passport to disembark." I lost it," she stammered, eyes wild with panic. "But I need to get off. My husband." The crew member frowned. "Ma'am, if you don't have your passport, you'll need to stay on board until further arrangements can be made." Jessica's eyes darted back to me. "Nathan, please." "I can't." I slipped my sunglasses back on. "Enjoy your vacation, sweetheart." And with that, I turned and walked away. Jessica's screams faded behind me, swallowed by the lively sounds of the port, by the people moving forward, by the world leaving her behind. I didn't stop. I never looked back. Thank you for listening to the end. I hope you enjoyed it very much. Don't forget to give a like, and tell us in the comments what you would do in such a situation.